Welcome to our Vault Shorts. These are shorter episodes highlighting programs and resources here in our Billings community. And today we have the lovely pleasure of interviewing Jen Weber with the Entrepreneurship Collective.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
It's Mars B.
And Kavo.
And this is The Vault at 201 North Broadway.
A business podcast.
Where we bring you entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders of Montana.
To share their stories, expertise, industry insights, and strategies.
And we are sharing them all with you every single week.
You don't want to miss this.
Learn how to better start, manage, and grow your business.
And your leadership style.
Tangible takeaways to save you time and improve whatever it is that you're working on.
You're listening to The Vault.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, community development, and workforce development. Learn more at bigsky.economicdevelopment.org.
Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited. So let's just get right into it. Entrepreneurship Collective sounds super cool. I can't wait to learn more. So what inspired you to transition from a career as a trademark and copyright attorney to launching the Entrepreneurship Collective?
Well, it's in part because of the SBDC, actually. I was a resource partner.
We did not tell her to say that.
This is not paid advertising. No, it was interesting. So using my expertise as, with that background, I was giving time to the SBDC, and we were starting to see a trend of questions saying, well, if I filed for my LLC, I'm all set with my trademark. And the answer is no to that. So from that, a class was developed that I started teaching and really enjoyed it. And finally dawned on me I could do this under my own brand and expand on that. Mm-hmm. So that is the start of it. The name for the business came a little bit later. I was just sort of, doing that. So that's how I started, because I just know there's so many entrepreneurs that need to know these things. And what I consider business essentials, I think at the time the class was called Trademark Fundamentals. Real catchy, but it got the point across, So business essentials and things that I went to law school for specifically to learn all this and work in that way was really exciting to be able to offer it in a way to people that it's scary to talk to a lawyer. And more realistically, most business owners and entrepreneurs, when they get started, are either people that want to get everything lined up before they start, or they are people that have started and go, oh, I should think about things. And I've been an entrepreneur both ways. So anyway, that's how that got started, just from the education and awareness standpoint.
So you mentioned the name, and you're like, oh, that came a little bit later. So can you give us kind of like a timeline? So you started working with us, the Small Business Development Center, doing trainings in that capacity. And then you're like, hey, I could really turn this into something. Just talking through like, what was that transition process like? And then where did the name come from? And like, what inspired the name for you?
The process was really organic. I can't say that there was a concrete plan.
Yeah.
I am someone that will look into the details. So when I started law school, you're not supposed to advertise as an attorney. There's a lot of rules, and there still are a lot of rules, but there wasn't the social media that we have now. So one of the first things I was doing was trying to figure out how to be an online business owner. Mm-hmm. How am I going to do this? I work from home or a co-working space. And so it was a lot of learning that and that fear of being out there. Mm-hmm. I think everyone had like learning how I'm like, I don't want to be on video. I don't want to, do all the
I don't want to, because it's kind of awkward. It can be. Some people love it and some are like, I know I have the services, but I don't need to be the one that's like front of camera doing all those things.
And I don't mind it because I do like teaching and I do like talking to people. And
there's something so different than being in front of a camera and then like teaching a room.
Yeah, because I literally recorded a training and I put some I think it was in around Christmas time. So I had some sort of like gnome decoration that I put on the desk and talked to it because it was like, it made me laugh. So I would sound,
like there's an audience there. Yeah. And it's not just like the camera.
Not like, and today we're going to learn about.
Right. And then next you need to know, Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of research about that and, the rules. So when it came time to create accounts, I can't tell you how Entrepreneurship Collective came about. I do have a trademark that I use, which is Start, Grow, Thrive. And that came from a branding exercise where you had to get up and tell someone in the room you've never known before what your business was. And at the time, I was a lawyer working under my own name. So it was a really good practice on separating myself. What does my business do? It's not all me, doing that separation. So that really informed being able to name things. Also, I had a career out of naming things. So sometimes it just it's a little easier for me to think. So ultimately what it means to me, though, is working with entrepreneurs and business owners and anyone that's thinking about it. And so I really wanted to make it clear that's who it was for. And collective to me means it's a community, it's a group. And I have very big visions for what I would like to do. And so choosing that captures, I think, what the vision is and a space to be, because as I say a lot in my copy and in talking to people, is that entrepreneurship is never linear and it can be very lonely. And I've had that experience myself. My first business was out of law school. So I was an entrepreneur early on and then did more traditional work. And now I'm an entrepreneur again. So the vision is to have a space that is educational, slightly irreverent, a good place to be. It's supportive, that you can talk to other people about the real stuff, including I don't want to be on video, and self-examination a little bit about you don't have to do all the things. There's a lot of messaging out there. So figuring it out your way and in a place to do that.
Yeah.
So for those starting out, I think what you're talking about, because you went through that, what are some of those critical business essentials that entrepreneurs need to know to protect their businesses? You talked a little bit about it, but just more in depth, like what are those things? Like you sign up, you make your, you have your LLC or whatever, your sole proprietorship, that doesn't also give you a trademark or give you some of those other things. So what I'm sure you hear a lot, because I hear this a lot, is people at some point will say, I don't know what I don't know.
Yep.
I
say that.
I'm like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Exactly. And we'll figure it out. You can search the internet for anything, or talk to people that are doing something like you. A lot of people will just start as a sole proprietor, but they don't know all the different entities and that kind of thing. So there is sort of the business formation things, learning what the difference is, what the impact is if you don't do it correctly or if you pick the wrong one, and that it's not just filing with the Secretary of State. There's a lot of documents that you need to have, not terribly a lot for an LLC, but there are other things that you need in place that people don't know. Or what I also see a lot is, well, my friend started a similar business, so I'm going to use their documents. Or I found something online that should work, and that can be a risk. So
we've seen that happen where the document just says in state of California throughout the whole thing, and their business in Montana.
Right. It's so common, and I understand it, and it's normal. And I think that's the other place about where I'm coming from, is that there's absolutely no shame. We all get it wrong. We figure it out. So there's that piece. To the point about the name of the business, the Secretary of State is looking to see if that name is already taken in the state. So that is a different assessment here in Montana. I'm not going to speak to all states, but it's broadly speaking, that's true, right? Because that's a consumer protection idea, that if there's a problem with the company, then you can go to the Secretary of State, look up their address, and figure out where you send any legal paperwork. That's the purpose of being registered. The trademark conversation is entirely different. The trademark goes to your brand. And so that's specifically to the kinds of goods and services that you're providing. And there are state trademarks and there are federal trademarks. And there's a lot of analysis that goes into that, as far as one thing that I'll see is, well, I looked it up, I Googled it, it's not taken, I'm going to use it. It's like, that's like, before Google switched to endlessly scrolling, you could click on page 10, 20 of the results, that kind of thing. And I would say your first glance, if you have an idea, go deep into that and see if
what you can find.
Because as a trademark attorney, you get called a dream killer sometimes, because you have to say, no, it's a real risk if you pursue that name. So there's that education. And then The other piece of that is a business's intellectual property. Intellectual property broadly is patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. And so to be aware of all of those things is really key. Copyright can be if you've written a book. That's an obvious one. It's for creatives. It's their it's their photographs. It's all kinds of things. If you have a podcast, you need to know about all of the rights that you have in your recordings and the documents that you need so that you don't have a guest come back later and saying you have to take it off the air because there's nothing in writing. So broadly speaking, it's learning the essentials, and those are some of the core stuff. And then just remember, get everything in writing. And so it is important to have contracts. And there are very good templates out there and things defined. So first, it's an awareness campaign, but at the end of the day, it's create a solid structure and some systems so that you are not getting blindsided. Because a very expensive thing that can happen has actually happened here in town. I've heard stories about where companies have gone as far as putting the sign up, those really beautiful signs, and you're excited.
That are expensive.
And take a crane to put up there, and then got a trademark cease and desist and had to take it down and get a new sign or change a whole company's name. I mean, can you imagine changing all your letterhead and everything for a business?
Especially if you've built a following around that name.
And that's what the key thing is, because the trademark is really about your brand, right? You can see so many things just looking around you. The vault is a brand.
And we're a registered trademark.
Congratulations. I love it. And so, you can sit in any part of your day or look around if you're listening to this and see so many brand labels in front of you, whatever it is. And the power of that is that a trademark can be words. It can be like the vault. It can be a tagline like mine, Start, Grow, Thrive, or it can be a logo, looking at a MacBook. So the Apple icon, that kind of thing. And the power of just looking at that apple, we all know what that means.
We do.
And that's a brand development that pre-Apple, it was an apple orchard is probably what you thought of,
And now you're like, you think of like technology when you see it.
I had an uncle who wanted to give a gag gift to his brother. And so he wanted to send a case of apples. And he's like, do you know how long it took me to find an apple orchard? Because everything came up was for Apple, right? And they're big Apple fans. So he wanted to wrap it and make it look like it was an apple, a gift from Apple, but actually be apples. So
that's funny.
That's some great humor there.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's some very serious brotherly love right there.
Yeah, it is.
Well, so you work with entrepreneurs all the time. What's some advice that you would give to someone who's considering starting their own business but feels overwhelmed by the process?
First, understand that's normal. I mentioned before we started recording that I moved here to Billings 12 years ago, and I moved from Los Angeles, and I wasn't aware of SBDC and all the resources till I moved here. Now, I wasn't necessarily looking for them, but I was like, what? And that is one of the reasons I started giving time here. It's like, everybody needs to know about this. So
we agree.
Yes. So clearly I'm, again, not paid to be here. But so that is really key. If you are in a specific industry or you're trying to do something in particular, let's say start a podcast, there are enough resources out there to find some reputable, there's going to be checklists and things. But the thing is, it is overwhelming. And so if you can find some resources that make sense to you, I think that's very helpful. But the biggest thing, and I think what slowed me down, and sometimes it's a combination of things, is, and I'm reminded of this, everyone is marketing something. Right? Because they're good at it, their skill set, whatever that is. So it's not bad to be marketed to. But when you are new and trying to figure out how to do an online business like I was, I'm like, oh, I got to do that. Oh, I got to do that. And so I spent a lot of time, which I now call sort of productive procrastination, right? I'm looking and I'm researching the thing. I'm starting this business. I'm learning how to be online. And I had to finally stop and say, well, what do I want to do? You can get really trapped into some expensive programs or whatever that expensive means to you. And you realize that they're really good at marketing the program to you, but at no time are they helping you develop your product.
Yeah.
Right. It is, we're going to help you sell it. We're going to help you sell low ticket, high ticket, from messaging and, all the different things. And it can be very overwhelming. So I think first, before you get real clear on what you're offering, have a trusted group of people that you can talk to, find resources like that.
How do you know? So you talked a little bit about it, but like when you're looking up things online or forums, like how do you know when there's something that's like legit, reputable, or like, no, this is not a good source? Like, how do you, when people are doing some of that research, and from your experience of doing that too, how do you know when it's legit and when it's not?
Not Wikipedia.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of good resources out there, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure it works for you. And you gave a great example of, you go, oh, let's say website terms and conditions, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to go to the Vault's website, copy theirs, and use theirs. Mm-hmm. That is in no way going to work for you. In part, like you're saying, it's going to be the wrong jurisdiction, right? There's key essential things. And your point about saying they were in Montana, but it said California everywhere, right? So at the end of the day, I am looking at these essentials as protecting yourself legally, at being aware of it, and then making business decisions about that. It can be expensive to file a trademark. You need to be aware of that and decide when you're going to do that, and learn how to assess the risks for your business. You want a contract that says, if there's a dispute over my business, I want it to be decided here in where I am in my jurisdiction. And there are different rules, about employment. So if you had an employee contract that you got from someone and didn't have it vetted or get it from a resource, California, for example, is an at-will state, right? Montana isn't. So if you had employment provisions that didn't work for you, but you signed a contract with someone, you're going to have to follow things that you didn't mean to. So there are really big impacts to that. So, you've seen it at the basic, like sort of essential levels. You can go into Office Depot and there are packages of like leases, kinds of things. So if you're in a profession like a realtor or some other things, that would be a great resource to feel like they've been trusted and vetted. And there's still not going to be, there's always going to be the caveat, use at your own risk, talk to a lawyer, that kind of thing. But that's a better start. There are a lot of lawyers that have separate businesses that sell templates. Some are very specific to industries. So you could Google lawyers and templates, that kind of thing. So there's ways that's more trustworthy in that way. Grabbing something online, you don't know who created it, what was added. People are doing sort of online estate planning and doing that and then just deleting things. They're like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. But if you don't understand why that's there, you can really
mess things up.
You can really mess things up and not, especially in an estate plan, right? It's your intention where you would like your things to go. And if it doesn't go that way because
you deleted a chunk out of it.
You deleted a chunk that was kind of key to, making that happen. So that's the kind of awareness I need to bring. And of course, you can go to a lawyer. There's a common trend for sort of flat fee rates on things. So you don't have to be worried about, if I call a lawyer, I'm going to get billed. And, so you're...
Yeah, do I have to put them on retainer and...
learning that stuff. And a lot of people think that lawyers are scary and don't want to talk to them.
But they're really just like everybody else.
We're not. I would say it's a whole, that's a whole nother conversation. But I do remember once meeting someone and they're like, you're a lawyer, but you're nice. And I'm like, well, I'm not arguing with the people all the time. That's
different types of lawyers.
Yeah, there's different
types of things.
And that's the other thing I remember learning is like you get to be yourself in your profession, because I early days didn't want to have anything to do with litigation because I thought you meant you were in court pounding on tables all the time. And it's like, that's not me, and no, you don't have to. So.
There's different things. Yeah.
One of the cool things about your business is you're a Kolbe Certified Consultant. Can you talk about what that means and what kind of benefits that brings to your clients?
Absolutely. So this really fits into sort of where Entrepreneurship Collective was born, and like it was more of sort of a gut feeling about I could see where this is going. I'm someone that can envision things. And so about 5 years ago, I was at a conference and we took what's called the Kolbe A. And we took it and then we got our results when we were there. And what it does is tells you your MO. It shows you your MO. It's the way you will or will not do something. So I get asked a lot, well, is it like a DISC or a Strengths Finder or any other of those things, which I've taken, right? Or at least some of them. I think we all have. And so what the Kolbe, they call it the Kolbe wisdom, right, is that there are 3 parts to the mind. And there is your cognitive, so it's your IQ, and it's your education, and it's your experience, and just all of that, lived in trainings and things like that. Then there's the affective part of the mind, which is more about your values and things like that. And most of those other kinds of assessments fall into the affective part of the mind. And so they're valuable. I think I learned a lot about myself, serving on nonprofit boards and taking strength finders and yep, I think the color was blue. I'm like, that totally makes sense. It's like, I get it. But what is interesting about that, especially like something like the Myers-Briggs, is that those results can change over your life, and what really struck me about Kolbe, first getting my results and saying, yep, I feel really seen, is that the Kolbe assesses the cognitive part of the brain, so it's of the mind. So that's your MO. It's how you will or will not do something. And so I just did a team training last week for about 11 people, and it was really fun to see. They all work in the same space and getting the results. And you can see the ahas. Oh, that's how you approach that. That's how I, kind of things. So like I said, I took that about 5 years ago and wanted to become a certified Kolbe consultant to give that experience. When I got my results, there wasn't part of a Kolbe training, so it was sort of a high view of what it was, and I just loved it. And so a couple of years ago now, I got certified. And what it really helps with, I have worked with people from high school students applying to college. That gives them some real clarity. It tells you about how you approach problem solving when you're free to be yourself, right? So I will start out specifying facts, so that's part of my nature. And that's why I was saying productive procrastination, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm starting a business. Well, I can research that, or I can research more tech because my affective part of the brain is like, it's too scary to go live. So I'm going to go research something else, right? Sort of learning that. So it's really understanding how you approach things. There are key things to remember is that you get a result that is 4 numbers, and none of that is better than the other, right? One isn't better than 10,
different.
Right? It's just strengths. And so when you do this, if you imagine 4 pillars with 3 sections each, I'm a 7-3-7-3. Okay. So I initiate in these certain categories, and then the top level means I'm more adaptive and an envisioner and so there's, again, this is trying to condense this here, but I find it, so it was very validating for me, and the people that I have served, so high school students, working teams, I do individual consultations, and I've done this for all ages. And my one friend in her 30s, it was so funny, we had a follow-up to, now you've had time to process this, what do you think? And she's like, I am not wrong.
I feel like I am always to that one. I'd be like, you know what? It's funny when it's,
and other people say, I feel what I heard on this team training, I can hear like, yep, that's me. I feel so validated. And it's really interesting because it's really, your results don't change because it is who you are. And so it can help you identify a lot of things. Understanding who you are, it can help you understand, okay, this is how I work. And then you can start identifying stress in your workspace or your life. Because if you're doing things out of your MO for extended periods of time, it's stressful. And so does that cause burnout? And again, we live in all 3 parts of our mind. So it's very holistic view of that, but it does really help. And you can use it also to, so during the training, you take the Kolbe A, you get your results, and then you take the Kolbe B, which is how you answer a different set of questions about describing your own job. So I did that and then got the results. Now I knew I was a 7-3-7-3. I created this own business for myself. And so the Kolbe result for the job I created for myself is a 7-4-7-3. It's
so really
like,
cool.
Yeah, it's really spot on for matching my strengths. Now, so when I look to hire, I need people that fill out that grid. So I'm not replicating myself. I'm not trying to clone someone like that.
Right.
And because I need someone, like, for example, in law school, I was someone that needed to read everything and I would outline later. And other people are really good at starting with an outline and then getting into it. And I would try. And I'm like,
it's just not how your brain works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I didn't stress out about that, but it always stands out in my mind because I must have thought about it I tried. And then I was like,
I'm just going to do it the way that makes sense. But it sounds like, because we've done like the Gallup ones, so I'm more familiar with that, but it's like really understanding yourself and that level of self-awareness. And I, as an entrepreneur, which I am not, but I would imagine that that's so helpful to really understand yourself, especially as you look to grow. And then you do need to start hiring people, understanding what you need in areas that you're maybe, like you're the 7373. So how do you fill your team with people that have other numbers that can do other things really well for you?
Yeah.
Complement each other. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, with the systematizing, things, obviously I'm a lawyer. I can follow rules, I'm just not the person to create them. Yeah. Right. But I'm really good at looking at them and, adapting or navigating them and things. So for me, I would need to hire someone that can be either create them or can maintain systems. And so for me as a solo, until I'm ready to hire people, I find tools that help me. So I have great booking software that creates a whole flow for me. It's a system that I can use that I didn't have to create. I learned how to put it together, but it really works, so you can book a consult with me, the contract gets sent to you, goes on the calendar.
And it's just like easy, efficient. So that brings up a question I have for you. So if someone's listening and they're like, oh my God, I really want to learn more, like work with you on this, like who are your ideal clients? Like, is it entrepreneurs? Is it teams? Is it like, who's your ideal client?
I really enjoy doing teams. So that is a piece of it, but I really like this individual consult. So it's so funny because I'm like all of them, which sounds very but realistically. So what I'm looking for is, I launched a membership that it's been in sort of beta version and it's gone really well, but it really helps me serve clients if they've taken it. So the membership is for business owners, and it happens to be that I tend to work with people right now who are experienced in a career of whatever sort. Doesn't have to be a professional degree or whatever, but they've got that expertise 10 to 15 years out and are looking to use that in a different way. So maybe they want to start their own business. And so I had a great group of people. One was that exact, I want to start a new business. I want to know everything I need to do before I launch. And she did. And then the other person in the group happened to be a lawyer who was like, I'm going to start a mediation practice now. So different aspect, use all my skill set, do something different. And already knew the legal rules. And it was a great combination of people. It really benefited both. So the business essentials and things like that, I'm looking to do teaching classes, trainings, and that kind of thing. But for memberships and working with me one-on-one, it's probably going to be more, I think the Kolbe itself can be, obviously I think everyone should take it because it's really helpful. But for consulting with me, I think it's more of the experienced business owner. I see people, they're talking about growing and learning how to delegate and learning how to, be a leader in their own business, because a lot of us get started and go, oh, now I have employees.
And it's a transition, I think even if you're like listening and you just work in a company and you've transitioned from doing a lot of the work to then now managing people and leading them, it's completely different. And it is like to learn completely new skills.
Absolutely. I see it a lot in the legal field. It's like, great, you've worked here enough and built enough or whatever the standards are, right? And now you are a managing partner. And I have worked with some people that are like, nope, there was no training. Now I have the title and now.
I think that happens way more often than you think.
Everywhere. And I was really fortunate between firms I've worked with and volunteering on boards here, getting sent to a lot of really great training on leadership. And so that's another thing that I bring because we're all learning at it, but I want to remind people. And so even from the beginning, when people say, oh, I need a contract, I'm going to sign a contract. I remember it's your house, it's your rules. You get to be in charge of this, right? It's really exciting to get a client, but you also being a leader in that way, protecting your business and really understanding what works for you. So, yeah, I think that there's a variety. What I see happening is that this membership where I can have business owners come and they can learn from each other, but you're getting direct consulting from me, because there's a lot of groups out there. It's like you join and there's no leadership in the group, or it's all networking, and networking is not wrong. That is
it's a good value, but just there's other things too.
So my memberships are about having some time to co-work together. So these have been online. So I've had clients across the country. And then also hot seat sessions. So you can have 20 minutes or whatever amount of time it is to hear, tell me what's up, and I give you your feedback. And so in that earlier group I was telling you about, they really learn from each other and hearing.
Peer-to-peer assistance
exactly.
is amazing.
And so it's not a lot of crosstalk. It's like, it's me talking, okay, who's next? And then creating that community so they can talk and share with each other about, well, I face that, or I can go back and look at that.
Mm-hmm. So you've got your memberships, you've got some clients going on. What are the top 3 challenges that you're seeing business owners going through, and what kind of advice would you give them?
In the team concept or team arena, really looking at communication. I've worked in places where it's like, this is the way we do it. And when you come into that, you're like, kind of like, oh, okay, and so there's, so I think there's communication between each other. I think that there's strengths to be found in really understanding, a great example that Kolbe can show you is, are you interruptible? Some people, I've worked for people that are like, they would answer the phone whenever it rang. You could come in the door at any time, and that was their policy. Other people, it was knock on the door, make an appointment, send me an email, don't call me, and so really learning communication styles, I think is really, really essential. And I think I see tension there when you've got teams or employees, because it's really easy to take it personally. Why don't they ever answer my email? They have never liked email. They're never going to like email. Mm-hmm. And so if you said, oh, would you prefer me coming down the hall? They might say yes. So it's taking out the stigma of how to communicate with each other. It's like, it's not personal, even though when it feels like it sometimes. Yep. That kind of thing.
And I think that's really valuable as you're building a team too, of just like really understanding each other, but then also being willing on both sides to grow and maybe change and adapt a little bit, especially as you add team members to the fold as a small business or entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think it's being intentional about the culture that you're growing, because you do start and then you do hire because you're like, well, I need someone. And this is what I do see with clients that are expanding their business. It can be, we use the contract, or I hired my friend, or I do that. And then it's like, that wasn't the right fit for the job. And it made total sense. There's nothing wrong about that hire. But if you have, and we're all in it day to day in our business when you're working on it, right? It's like prep for the podcast. Mm-hmm. What's on my calendar, doing that.
Live and die by our calendars, actually.
Right? Yep. And then my calendar missed something the other day, and I'm like, kind of stuff. And it was like, it's fine. Making sure your calendars sync, all of that stuff, and really in the day-to-day of doing all of that. And so, you'll see in the online space a lot of like, make CEO time. Well, what does that really mean? You're like, I'm not a corporation, but it's really that adage of working on the business, not in the business. And so creating space and time for that intentionally to really look at that and see, is this fitting? And it is not that you have to be on a board or do that, but be a leader in your business for yourself. And that is a real skill set to say no, so that's boundary setting. It's expressing your vision. It's a lot of different things. So that's a very broad answer to that question. And I don't know if I hit 3, but.
You did great.
So what are some things that you have coming up, that like trainings, things like that you're working on that you're really excited about?
Well, I'm really excited about, because I'm on the committee for Battle of the Plans here.
Yeah.
So all of those I think there's 21.
Wow.
So we just got to meet.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And it's really exciting to see all of their ideas and concepts and where they're at. And so we got to meet with all of them as a group. I'm part of the selection committee. So next month I'll be teaching a shortened version of this Business Essentials. So it's that first creating an awareness of copyrights, trademarks, contracts, all of that stuff. By the time this goes live, my website, my newer one, will be
talk to
finished
us about
and live.
That. Yeah, talk to us about that.
That's, again, trying to, since I'm someone that, I will put Post-its all over the wall before I'm ready to create the document as a strong writer. But it's interesting creating a website and, using templates and then trying to fit into that. And so that can slow me down. So one thing I'm really focused on this new website is the consulting. And so focusing on individual and team coaching. What I'd like to offer, and when I'm getting ready to offer, is also what would be a group training. So if it could be a bunch of people that are friends or that certain, they're all business owners, but they don't work in the same business. So I want to create that community in a training with Kolbe, and to really have some conversation about that. So it's not just corporate, which I do enjoy and want to do more of. So I'm focused on expanding my consulting practice. And what will not be on the website right now is my membership. I want to do another round, have about 10 people. So it's a little bit more, who do I know? And this would be online. If you're interested, reach out kind of things.
With a membership.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So I'm looking at that. And so that membership meets, currently it's set to have sort of co-working, which is, I find very helpful because some people love to work at home. Some people don't. I do sometimes, and then I'm like, I have to get out. Like
to see people.
I have to get it. My body literally is like propelled out the door by itself. Like, you will be outside now, and talk to people.
It's easier when the weather's nice.
It does help. It does help because if it's rainy and cozy, it's like, oh, it's fine. But the other thing too, I find, if I could be in a co-working space and still not get something done because I have anxiety about it. I'm like, oh, I got to respond to that email, or I got to whatever it's about. And so I do find that in my membership, having online time where you come in and it's, we pick. I'm like, is it going to be 20 minutes today, or do we want a longer time? And I'll start a timer. And so camera's on and it's focus time, and you get stuff done. And I find it has been very helpful to me to do that over time, because there's something about, sometimes I'm like, you just sit here with me, I will get this project done. It's like, you don't have to talk to me. You don't have, you don't have to help me mop, whatever the thing is, right? It's just, and there are huge, it's very common and it's worldwide. There's all kinds of programs that you can do that. So that's a part of the membership. And then right now it's every other week with hot seats. So it's a lot of time with me. It's about 6 hours a month. And then this time I have some visions about what outside of lifetime would be as far as membership space. And of course I've looked at all the apps. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, that's some cool software, and I'll do the free trial and my email populates by itself because I've already tried this free trial. Right? Like, okay, what's another email? So all of my experience also as everything I've tried and learned, and, I've been a lawyer over 20 years and an entrepreneur since the beginning. So it's, I get to say close to 25 here soon. I've seen a lot and done a lot. And so I feel that I can shorthand it. So part of that is developing sort of, to your point, is like, where can people find things? I would love to have resources that are checklists, like focus, here's how to focus. This is kind of the order. And I can build on that, whether it's going to be classes or memberships or things, but sort of building this library that has been vetted and you can trust.
So a quick question on the membership. How long and I know it's in beta testing, but how long ideally do you want those members? Are they like year-long, 2-year-long, lifelong members, or is there a date that it's like, nope.
Like a time frame of,
I can't think of the word. I know, like a sunset date.
No, I think that's a great. So I have looked at all the things. This all started out with, we were talking about starting as the Entrepreneurship Collective. I was like, oh, I'll teach classes. And then I'm like, how many classes do I want to make? There's so much to know. And that's how I evolved into membership. I'm like, and then I was like, well, it has to be really structured. And I was like, no, it doesn't. We can have this conversation and I can build it. So that's a whole process and how I got there. So what I view it as is that I would like it to be a landing place where you stay as long as you want. Right now, my iteration, so this last one was a year. And it paused because I need to, I want to readjust some things. And then going forward, what I would like to do, at the time I offered like monthly, you can pay monthly or pay in full for the year. And they chose to do that. So what I see now is join quarterly. What I'd like it to be a place is really that you want to stay, that there's so much value that this group experience, this membership is really a place that you stay at. And then maybe there are certain times in life, in your career and business, you're like, I want to work with one-on-one with Jen. And then I see before that is there's materials and classes to get you started. And maybe you do a Kolbe session with me, right, to get that assessment. And then maybe you grow into, so my membership is called the Collective.
That's fun.
Which is, one thing when you name things, choosing Entrepreneurship Collective as a business name is a really long domain name.
But I think like when you call it like the membership's the Collective, like that has like a really nice sound and feel to it where it's like it's inclusive. And I mean, like I'm not in it, but it already feels like when it's like, oh, it's the Collective, it's just got a cool feeling to it. Like it's a powerful feeling. Yeah.
Thank you. I've been really excited about it. And it's funny, one of the Kolbe results comes back that says I'm really good at creating like taglines and logos and or phrases, and I just laugh because it can be so accurate. And I'm like, of course, I went into a career helping people do that, right, and helping them do that. So, it's the Collective, and I'm asking past members and reaching out to some people to get about 10 people to test it out. What I would like to do is a quarterly commitment minimum. You can see if it's a fit. Ideally, I want you to stay as long as and really, really build this, because I'm not looking to have a membership that's, you can go online, there's 60,000 people in there and it's delegated out to a lot of people, which is not wrong. It's just, where I see it is having sort of this core group, and I don't know what that number is yet because I want to start with 10 and grow and see what really feels good. But it's just a place to come and, it's that I feel seen. The shoulders are down. You're like, you celebrate the wins, celebrate, oh my God, that happened, whatever that is. And so one of the website that's coming out, one of my stumbling blocks is writing about myself and writing about what I do. And so I've been practicing a lot. And one thing that came out is that, the Collective or working with me should be slightly irreverent. It's not perceptions of lawyers or business or things like that. It's like, no, I'm a person that had an idea that wanted to go out and start a business, and I'm doing it. And sometimes it's elegant and sometimes it's chaotic. And so that's, I just want it to be okay.
It's a perfect description of business ownership.
And I just want it to be okay because, again, when you're on your own, and even, if you have family that's supporting you, it's still, you're the one doing it and thinking it, and people.
It's your livelihood.
It's your livelihood and supporting other people. But you can hear things like, why don't you just stop and go get a job? And that's well-meaning from people, but it can be soul-crushing to hear that. And so it's a really unique space to be in, to like try and figure it all out. And then I view the internet as a like impossible geyser of information, right? That, you'll see it. People are like, well, why would you pay for that? You can Google it. It's like, well, if you have the time and the interest to go do that, right?
And really Google it.
And take the time.
Get to page 10.
Right, get to page 10. Or shorthand it, right? Because you can get overwhelmed and then never start. So it's learning about yourself and, and for people that want to get it right. And if you're deep fact finder like me, you can spend all your time doing that and never launch a business.
Yeah.
Right?
The productive procrastination.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I want a sticker for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's been really fun to have you on here. You've talked a little bit about the website, but where can people connect with you? Where can they find you to learn more and then maybe sign up for some of these things you've talked about? Well,
thank you. So my website is startgrowthrive.io. It's a different ending than usual. And then so it's Jennifer Weber with 2 B's. There are actually 4 of us in Billings, so it's really funny.
You come to a state with like a tiny population in total of the whole state, right. And I'm used to 4 of you.
Yeah, I'm used to there being a lot of Jennifers, but that was funny. And one of them I'm related to, and it's great. And so on social media, I'm Entrepreneurship Collective, so you can find me there.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. So that's where I'm at right now. And I forgot the rest of that question. So.
Yeah, no, just where can people connect with you? So your website.
The website, there is a current one, so don't worry about that. And you can sign up to get on my email list. And then the new one should be out in a couple of days, and so there will be forms to more specifically say, hey, I'm interested in this membership, and let's have a chat.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. This has been great, and we look forward to seeing your new website live.
Yes, and Jennifer works in our Rock 31 co-working space, so sometimes if you pop in, you might find her here.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. This has been great.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure you are subscribed to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, wherever you podcast, including YouTube.
Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway and Instagram at TheVault_201.
Don't forget to visit us at thevault@201.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
We will see you next time.
Bye. Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center offers free personalized support from business plans to financial projections and beyond, empowering small businesses to thrive. Reach out to us at bigsky economic development.org.